Hello everyone and welcome to this episode, the sales one of the Women Talking About Learning podcast. I'm Andrew Jacobs. Sales is a scary topic for lots of people in learning and development. Are we salespeople? Are we marketing people? And why is sales a bit of a dirty word? To work this through, we just wanted to pull at some threads and are delighted to welcome some guests who are going to do that for us. Our first guest is Kirsty Lewis. Kirsty is the founder of the School of Facilitation, known for her passion for designing and delivering brilliant workshops that create purpose, ownership, safety and engagement. She's a convener of freelance facilitators and trainers through the SOF collective, while supporting corporate clients to evolve their learning game. On the side, she is dishing up SOFest 2025, a festival for all facilitators and trainers. Our second guest is Sarah Wood. Sarah loves creating learning and development programs that really help people grow and do their best work. With a solid background in learning and development, she brings that experience into high-velocity sales enablement teams where things move fast and impact matters. Sarah builds practical, engaging frameworks that support both individual growth and team success. I really do recommend listening to this episode. I've heard it 3 times now, and it's like an onion. Each time I listen, it unpeels something new. Recorded in April 2025, this is Women Talking About Learning. This is Kirsty and Sarah talking about sales.
Hi, Kirsty.
Hey,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I am really good, thank you. And I am going to jump right in and I'm going to ask you what attracted you to this topic and why are you here to talk about it today?
Why talk about sales? So, firstly, I come from a commercial background. So, when
Mhm.
I was actually in an organization, I was in a UK sales team selling one of the biggest global beer brands in the world, which was just amazing, Guinness. And then I worked in
Wow.
their global sales team. And that's where I then discovered um, training, development, and learning. So
Mhm.
I just love the sales conversation, and I've realized, though I hated it at the time, let me be really clear, but I really enjoy it now. How about you? What brought you to this conversation?
Well, it's interesting because I have a really strong background in learning and development.
Mhm.
All the way back from when I was 17, I worked in a PetSmart in America, and I trained puppies. I was a puppy trainer. So I've essentially always done training of some description in
Okay.
my career. But what I realized in recent years is that a lot of it was for salespeople. So even though I was in an L&D function, it was for salespeople. It was always
Okay.
for salespeople. And then I thought, why not just be like pure sales enablement? So then I moved into sales enablement
Actually,
about
just as you're talking, I'm like going, I have been a salesperson. I then trained salespeople internally. I then trained salespeople from a freelance perspective. And now that I run my own business, I sell. I have to sell in my role as a provider, supplier back into corporates and also on a B2C and a B2E basis. So yeah,
always.
I'm
There's
selling
a
all the time.
thread,
There's a
golden
thread.
thread there. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, but I think that it's interesting because sales is something that as L&D people we need to like be skilled in some way, and it feels I my body language, you can't see it, but my body language like kind of scrunches up at the thought of selling things.
Ah, that's really interesting. Let me just decode some language because I fell into the 3-letter acronym trap. B2C is business to consumer and B2E is
Mhm.
business to entrepreneur. So selling is not just business to business, B2B.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think there are different types of sales models that exist and therefore different type of conversation that you have. And I can you said like your body's like sort of almost like shrinking in on itself of like, you've got
Yeah.
to sell. Honestly, when I was a graduate, I had the choice. Did I want to go into the marketing program or did I want to go into the sales program? And I chose the marketing program because I thought it sounded sexier. And the thought of being a salesperson, it reminded me. So in Britain, we would call it being the double glazing salesperson,
Oh, yeah. Yep,
or the
yep.
car salesperson. And
Mhm.
I just thought, I don't want to be that person, like pushing. To
Mhm.
me, it was like a
Mhm.
pushy role. And then I become the accidental salesperson because for various reasons in my career. And then I realized, uh, it's not about pushing, it's about relationships. And as
Yes.
soon as that started to become more apparent, it's about how you build relationships, how you understand what the other person wants and needs. It just helped me shift my mentality that selling isn't a dirty word, but it can feel like it.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a, like, almost profound sort of moment that you touched upon, because that relationship and that person to person, and that human element is why I enjoy learning and development, is tapping into what sparks the fire in someone to learn something, to change behavior, to, I like to use the phrase, elicit behavior change. It's like kind of like draw them towards you, like you would like gently, and that understanding the other person's point of view, and that is sales, that is creating good training.
Yeah.
It's there's a similar thing that you're tapping into. So this is where my body language has kind of become more animated, and I'm less kind of like tight and worried, and I'm more like, yes, this makes sense.
And because when I think about selling for me, I'm selling into an organization. And I don't even think of it
Mhm.
like that. More often than not, it's just have a really good conversation because someone's coming with a need and then you're there to help solve the problem or help with the pain. From your point of view, what kind of selling do you do internally?
So in sales enablement, creating training for salespeople, I have to really understand again their pain. Where what are they facing every day? A lot of the things that they're facing into is the organization that I work for is selling a technological software solution that is really like complex, and it's proffering a solution to a very complicated problem that lots
Hmm.
and lots of people in the organization have touch points over and have different responsibilities over. And so that salesperson is the spokesperson for the company, and has to have gravitas, and has to have like the ability to speak to lots of different people in that organization with confidence, and to, they don't want to feel stupid. They don't want to like be asked a question that they can't answer, and then their credibility is through the floor. They have a really like almost scary, I would say, facing into these sorts of conversations, and it's my responsibility to help them have the tools and the knowledge and the understanding that they need to hold those conversations. Most of the time, they're amazing. Honestly, they are an amazing group of people, but they always are like asking for more, asking for more, asking for
Okay.
more, and there's a lot of very quick pivoting that we have to do to create training for them.
But it's good that they're asking for it and there's a
Yeah.
pull rather than you feel like you've got to go out and push training down onto them.
Yeah, yeah.
I was curious, like, though, from your point of view, though, do you have to do any selling? Inverted commas, she says with her fingers.
Well, I probably didn't answer your question earlier, did I? So I'll try again. I think that I don't like to sell to them, because if they're not needing it, if I'm not if I have to convince them that they need a thing, then they probably don't need that thing. Um it's
Or do you have to, like and not necessarily it doesn't sound like you need to sell to your salespeople, but it's like influencing and working with senior leadership. There's always I sometimes just
yeah,
flip the
yeah.
language. It's not internally, it can be about influencing and persuading. It's still the same set of skills, in my opinion, as it is when you're often selling. And I was just curious, like,
Yeah,
what
no,
goes on?
let me restart then if I could. Because I do have an example to share, and it's a very recent one. We are delivering I am running a program, it's a weekly program where we're delivering a series of live trainings that is, once a week, half an hour with Q&A on topics that are top of mind in terms of, like, it's end of quarter, you need to close on this deal, or this is a new product that your customers are gonna be asking you about because we just advertised it. These sorts of like very in the moment topics. And I am not the subject matter expert. So my responsibility is to run the show. I have developed the program and I am keeping the wheels on the bus turning, but I'm not the one delivering the training. I'm not the one who is the subject matter expert, but I am weekly throughout the week in advance of the session. I am coaching the subject matter experts to deliver content that is appropriate for the audience. So there's a challenge, there's some tension there because subject matter expert, they know everything there is to know, and I have to sit down with them and say, that's great, but what's one thing that they can do better after 30 minutes? 30 minutes isn't very long, so what's one thing that they can do better, and how can you kind of distill all of your amazing knowledge into a 30-minute session? And they're like, I can't. So I have a lot of coaching and a lot of guidance that I offer as we move through that process of developing a session that they can deliver that will meet the needs of the salespeople in that moment. Does that
No,
I
I
no?
was curious. No, I'm curious what, and I just think it's something that L&D people probably need to know how to do is how to sell L&D internally, how to sell or position the benefits of L&D uses sales skills as far as I'm concerned. So it's understand the benefits of
Mm,
L&D, understand, um what is the needs of the business, and therefore how do you match benefits and needs and then use your features. So that's where I was coming from in my head, is that I
right,
was just
right,
curious
right.
because I know when I was in the global role at Diageo, and we were lucky with we owned our own learning as the sales function, and so we didn't have to position it. But I know my leaders were always positioning back into the board, into their peer group of the the senior leadership team, um, the benefits of why we were doing something called the Diageo way of selling. So I think, and we could do it because we were salespeople, but it's something we've talked about before, is like not everybody knows how to sell or knows how the techniques.
I think there's a lot of challenges with L&D as a function in that space in terms of selling its ability, because
Yeah.
there's in my experience, and so I don't want to generalize across an entire profession, but there is difficulty in measuring impact. So how do you measure impact, and how do you define what the need is? A lot of times people say, oh, we need training, just
Yeah.
create us some training, it'll fix the problem. And then when you drill down into it, actually training may not be the appropriate solution, and so then you're spending company resource on something that isn't going
Mm,
to actually solve anything. So there's a need for, as you touched on, leadership being able to position L&D in a way where it can be a strategic partner in the business and can have access. There's that partnership element of it where we as a function need to be able to speak to other people and other teams and have that level of conversation where we can say, well, what are your problems? Tell me what's going on. And I faced into like a lot of siloing or a lot of like fear, like, oh, I can't tell you what's wrong, I don't want to get in trouble, or I don't want anything to blow back onto me. So there's lots of culture issues that you face into as well. I think that sales enablement, where I sit now in my current role, is better positioned to be able to measure the impact of training, because you have like like pipeline length or qualifications and all these sorts of metrics that are already being measured that you can hang your hat on. But in L&D, it's a little bit more loosey goosey, and you end up in a position where you could almost be saying, "Oh, well, we think that this will solve a problem, but we aren't in any position to be able to investigate all of the other factors. And so we don't actually know, but we're going to do it anyway." And then, and, and then you're just kind of like shooting in the
Shooting the
dark.
breeze. I do
Yeah.
wonder as well, though, the question was, like, why do we struggle to think of L&D as a sales process? You know, how do we sell? I wonder if it comes just down to real simple capability. Like, people in L&D didn't go into L&D to be salespeople. They probably went into L&D because they have a passion for the subject, they have
Mhm.
a passion for learning. And just like me running a business and many other solopreneurs who run their own training agencies, a lot of people didn't go into this to run a business, that they did it because they wanted to be really, like, I don't know, leadership or finance or supply chain. So therefore, I hypothesize that not everybody has the capability to sell, and nor have they been shown what a simple process it can be and what the steps are. And the fact that they
Mhm.
probably do have a lot of the skills needed to sell internally or in-house or back into in-house, they just have never put it into they've just never put it into that context. And therefore, I feel sometimes now when I'm working with my own clients, I feel like a real advantage that I was taught how to sell and I know how to have we'd call it account management, key account management. I'm sure you do too internally. But how do account managers work? Like, how do you structure a conversation that you go into with a new client? And the number of times I've observed people have a conversation and it doesn't go anywhere, and because it's not my conversation to own, and it frustrates the hell out of me because everyone's just, like, chatting and talking, and I'm like, where are we going in this conversation? What's the outcome you want to achieve? Where are the questions? Like, please, would
Mhm.
someone ask a bloody decent open question to start to get the client to talk and tell us what it is that's really truly going on for them? And would everyone who's not a client shut up? Because it's not about us. I wanna hear what the client's got to say. I wanna hear what their pain is. I wanna hear what their needs are, what they think the benefits of doing this piece of work is. Like, how does this potential solution fit with their business strategy 3, 5
Yeah.
years down the line? Like, let's go future. So
Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah.
mean by having those conversations. I think I do that naturally, but it's not everybody's start point.
No, and I think that there aren't there roles within an L&D function aren't really suited for that level of discovery, right? You get given, like, I've been in roles where I've just been given the spec, and
Right.
I build to that spec. Um, but in 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 other roles, I've had that autonomy, as it were, where I can have those discovery conversations and drill down and dig into people and ask those open-ended questions. So yeah, I suppose that is an opportunity. That is a sales adjacent sort of behavior, isn't it? Where you're owning that conversation and you're looking for specific outcomes and you're asking those open-ended questions and pulling at threads to try to get more info out of people. So that is a sales behavior, isn't it?
It is for sure. I was just wondering as well, from your experience of having external suppliers coming in and, like, you've asked them to come and maybe pitch for a piece of work.
Mhm.
Have you
Mhm.
had a different experience when it's a female founded business versus a male founded business in terms of the type of conversation that shows up?
Do you know what? I don't think that I have. I think that I've been really lucky in my professional career where that has been something that, if there has been any bias, it's been smoothed out before I came along. But I'd be interested in your experience if you've got something.
Hmm. I'm a woman, so I
Yeah.
just do it my way, which is conversational, and it's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
much I don't go in with a pitch deck. Like, I've never done a pitch. like with a load of slides. Just doesn't even occur to me. So it's
Do you
very
think
much,
that's a man thing?
I don't know if it's a man thing, but I've spoken to some of my, I've got some really good male friends who run their own businesses, and they're like, "No, no,
Mhm.
here's the deck," and I'm like, "Yeah, I just don't do that." Um, because it just, I wanna have the conversation, and that leads to then often being asked to write a proposal, which then leads to the opportunity to share, the thinking. I just wondered if, people in-house, is there a difference between how a female-led business supplier, like, works in and with a male-led? I was just curious.
No, I'm afraid I don't have any insight on that. But I do wonder if there's also a level of confidence, conversational confidence that comes into play with that.
Yeah,
Um, this idea of women liking empathy, men like telling. Is that a thing?
I
Or
don't
is
know.
that a
I I don't
stereotype?
know. We'll have to ask the listeners who are here right now to send Andrew a message or two and, like, see how many people come back and give him a hard time that, "Yeah, us men
Yeah.
have empathy as well." Men do have empathy, but it's
Of
just
course.
how
Of
it
course.
shows up and how we have
Yeah.
those types of conversations. Do you think, from an L&D perspective, what benefit there would be to learn how to sell?
Oh, I think there's a massive, massive benefit. And I think that one of the reasons why I was attracted to joining this podcast today was that the overlap is huge. I did a professional qualification, CIPD level 5, and as part of that qualification I did like a mini dissertation style research project, and it was about storytelling. That was my topic decided, and how storytelling is linked to learning. And salespeople at heart are really great storytellers. And that is how people connect. It's how people learn. It's how you remember things. It's how you touch on emotion, which then changes behavior. It's all there. All the pieces are there. It's just presented in a slightly different way with slightly different language. But I think that L&D professionals would be silly to not realize that they should be looking at sales for tips, tricks, and ways of doing
Of
things
ways
because
of doing it.
it's
But
powerful.
then it comes back down to the old question of when do L&D eat? Because as far as I'm aware, they eat last. They're very good at helping everybody else or getting involved in other people's learning and development. And whenever I speak to L&D leaders, I often hear, because I'm there to help them upskill in terms of their training or their design, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we haven't got time for that." Or we're just way too busy, and it's like, "Oh, but you've gotta look after yourselves, put your own oxygen mask on."
Oh yeah, 100%. I think there that's always been the case in my experience as well, but I have decided personally from my own professional development to prioritize ongoing professional training.
Great.
So if I work for an organization that allows like a budget for training, I tap into that from January. I'm like, right, what can I do this
Yeah,
year? What am I
nice.
doing?
But not everybody's like that, Sarah, are they?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, there's not everyone's as proactive. Um, Imagine, someone listening to this conversation and they go, "Actually, I would like to improve my selling skills, my
hmm
influencing skills." How would what do we think someone would do to start, or where could they go?
Well, there are so many resources out there for salespeople, like a bajillion. So I can understand why that might be a little bit daunting. I think that if they work for an organization, probably a really, really solid piece of advice would be if you work for an organization that has a sales function, what sales methodology does your organization apply? What do they do? Learn that so that you can speak the same language as all the other people in your organization who sell. I think that that would be an amazing thing to do. And build relationships with people that are in your organization that are sellers.
For sure. I think, from my point of view, like from the outside in, for freelancers, and it's often a conversation that I have in within the SOF community, people are really nervous about selling. So we talk about it quite a lot. Um,
Mhm.
but I've never found one organization or one place to go and get that information. I often find people come almost to the kitchen table to me to ask for advice on like how do I have the conversations with my customers, my clients, and I just share with them. To your point, the process, a six-step process that I use to manage every single client interaction. It's like a face-to-face meeting, whether that's virtual or
Mhm.
in person. Um, but it does boil down to, I think, some just core factors of like know where you want that meeting to go, i.e., your outcome. What are the
Mhm.
questions you want to ask, and write them down, please, because it gives you bandwidth. Like you don't have to try and think of questions on the fly. um, be prepared. Like you are learning professionals. You know how to build rapport with someone. You know how to flex your body language, your tone of voice. Use all of that amazing skill that you have, and then just ask the questions and listen and probe. Please keep
Mm.
probing. Don't take the answer that the client or the customer gives you at face value.
Mhm.
Go deeper, like, to your point, like, understand what it is they truly need, and then a language technique of summaries is brilliant when you're selling. So, "Can I just summarize what I've heard you say?" And what you get back is what you're doing to me now is, like, the nodding, and you
Yeah.
see the
Yeah.
customer or the client going,
Mhm.
"Uh-huh, uh-huh," and then you go, "Okay, let's move into a different topic." But then more often than not, you sort of gather up all this information, and it's
Yeah.
sense checking, like, what's most important to you? What top 3 things do you wanna change in the world that you work in?
Yeah.
So, it's that understanding phase is just, I think, is so, so important versus going to a meeting with a potential client and opening up your pitch deck and just presenting at.
Yeah, no, that would turn me off completely as a potential client because 'cause I'd be like, "Well, why am I here? You already have this figured out."
Exactly, and, like, you're just talking at me.
Yeah.
I do remember once I was doing some sales training and, with a rather infamous company that sprinkle magic fairy dust, and I said, "Look, I'm no disrespect." I said, "I don't think Tesco care 2 hoots about the magic fairy dust. They want to know what you can do for them. So come start with the questions, start with a true understanding, and then you can sprinkle your magic fairy dust." So that's always one for me. Yeah, and I
It's the asking why, like, what is it, 5 times or something? Why? Keep going, keep going, keep going.
exactly, and only asking why questions once you've really built the rapport.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll
Yeah.
just see that get
It's
turned off. Andrew's just asked us a question. I'm gonna put this out there. He says, "I love talking at as a concept. How do women avoid this?" Well, I don't know. That's assuming that women avoid it. I've met some women who still talk at.
I think that, the most fruitful conversations that I've had with my internal customers when I'm trying to uncover is when I've been in like first of all, I've built a rapport as you've already said.
Mhm.
So there's two different scenarios that could play out. Either I'm in there on my own and I've already built a rapport with the people in the room and so I'm not able to like I won't fill the air. I'll listen. So I'm asking those questions, but they're comfortable with me to be honest and to keep going. Or I've got a really like strong relationship with a colleague and we're in there as a team and we're bouncing off of each other. And there's again, it's the open-ended questions, it's the listening, it's the picking up on tiny little things that they say or how they react and building on that and going, "Oh, Kirsty, I noticed you nodded when I said such and such. Could you like what do you think? Tell me more." Um all of those things are really really powerful tools and it's the we have two ears and only one mouth kind of concept, right? Let's listen more than we're talking. Being talked at, I'm not sure if Andrew was asking about that element of it where we're the ones being talked at as women in meetings. That's a little bit more of a generic sort of experience that can happen no matter what role you are in an organization.
I can't
But
talk to it because I normally make sure I own the conversation and I lead it, and I'm quite comfortable saying, "Let's just pause," because sometimes people dive into a conversation, and I'm like, can we just take a couple of steps backwards? what do you want to achieve today? Like, let's just get very clear what we're here to do and where we're going to go in this. We've only got an hour, so where are we
Yeah.
going?
Yeah.
And let's
Yeah.
get super clear on that. And then I'm like, they often go, "Oh, do you want to share your thinking?" I'm like, "No, I'd like to ask you some questions." And they're like, "Oh," but then you build that rapport, and then by the end of it, like, and you say, what's the logical next step? They
Mm.
People time and again are more likely because they feel seen, they feel heard, they've had an opportunity to express themselves.
Mm-mm.
That when you say, what do you want to do as the next step? They're more often than not, in my world, say, can you come back to us with a proposal, or can we have another meeting to go deeper? And that's all.
Mhm.
That's all
Mhm.
I want to achieve in meeting number one. And the same would be true internally. It's like you can't. It's really rare, and I'm sure this is true internally, to get an agreement in meeting number one on a new subject. But we forget that. I swear, people forget. They think they can go into a meeting and get agreement straight away.
When I work with a new stakeholder, I have an intro call. This is only about shaking hands. Like, we are here to meet each other, to get to know each other, and then we'll talk more in a few
Yeah,
days. That's sales, right? That is the way
yeah,
you do it. And you keep saying the word feel, which I think is so important. We're here to build relationships with people and help them to feel something,
yeah,
whether it's to uncover that pain and feel like that you're the person who's going to fix it for me. I feel a connection with you, or however they need to, the only way they're going to change their behavior or do a thing that you want them to do or progress to the next meeting or whatever is if they feel something, right?
yeah. Okay, I've got another question, a different angle. So I'm external, you're internal. And it's a conversation I had this morning with another fellow business owner, Faris Aranki, and we were talking about pipeline. So for us as externals, we need to keep feeding a pipeline. And um, he talks about doing 20 to 30 voice notes a day just to say hi to people. How do internal people feel about the external suppliers dropping into their inboxes? People they know, so this isn't cold calling or anything, but like the, hey, how are you? Fancy a coffee? We haven't spoken for so long. Like, I'm curious, what's that like from your point of view?
Well, I mean, unless I'm in a position to have any sort of influence over the buying process, I feel like I'm wasting that other person's time as an
Mm,
internal person, because I can make recommendations, but if I can't influence the outcome of that, I feel like I don't know why I'm doing this or taking up your valuable day. So I feel unsure about how to proceed with a
that's interesting.
conversation.
Because the
Yeah.
reason we reach out to people we know, so we always talk to people we know. It's more a case of just, "Hey, what's going on?" and get a felt sense of what's happening in the business. Because sometimes just hearing
Right,
that
right.
there's that. Um, Sometimes we know you're not the right person because we know what you do, but you I don't know if you realize this, you probably influence the decision makers sometimes as well, without
Mm, mm.
realizing that you influence the decision makers. So it's from a supplier perspective, staying in touch with people through the business works in a great way.
But what is it from your perspective if that doesn't go anywhere? Like, if I'm ignoring you?
Fine. Genuinely, I've now grown some thick skin. So
Mm.
the reason we put out multiple messages or you make multiple connections is exactly for that reason. But also just
Mhm.
not taking it personally because there's two things that comes out of that for me is one, I might say to myself, well, the time isn't right now for
Mhm.
Sarah to have this conversation. That's fine. And then secondly, just even my message or my voice note to you can be just a reminder just to put me back up your, I don't
Mhm.
know what you would call it, even like back, I'm moving my hand up and down here, like back up into your
Mhm.
mind that
Mm.
should the time come and you go, "Ooh, actually, yes, I have a need and I know who to go and talk to about it." You
Mhm.
you might think
Mhm.
of Kirsty first or School of Facilitation first.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
growing the thick skin has taken some time for sure. And it's just getting used to making the ask and getting the no, but that and
Yeah.
realizing it's got absolutely nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. And, when you can reframe it versus, "Oh, I've put a message to Sarah and she's not replied. Oh my god, Sarah doesn't like me anymore," to, "I've put a message to Sarah, she's given me a thumbs up, but that's it." Oh, reframe. Sarah's probably really busy. It's the end of Q2 or it's the end of H2. Um, she knows I'm here. That's cool.
Yeah, I wonder how internal people can adopt a similar sort of feeling, because I think
Yeah,
with an internal customer audience, that is the strong relationships with people is pretty vital. And
absolutely. And I think it goes back to doing some really simple prep every year, which is like, what is our strategy within L&D? Like, what do we want to be achieving this year, 18 months, 2 years? Have we looked at our stakeholder mapping recently? Um, and therefore, who are the right stakeholders to be connecting with? So you're not
mhm.
spending your time talking to people that you shouldn't be speaking with because you're not going to get anywhere. I think that's the other
I
thing.
that is we've touched on quite a few really strong discovery actions that salespeople can take in order to build strong relationships and have a really good first or second touch point with the prospect. But I think the L&D people can really mine that and use similar things where we know who our key stakeholders are and we understand their role in the business, whether it's internal or external. We know who to contact to build strong relationships and how we interact with them. That's for anybody really, isn't it? And internal or external. And then this idea of discovery calls and having a goal for a conversation in terms of like, how does what I like what you said. It was like, what do I want at the end of this call? How am I going to get there? What questions am I going to ask? And then how am I going to guide that conversation to move to the next phase?
So something I would offer up for L&D people is a bit of a reframe that it's not selling, it's a relationship building. And you all know
Yes.
how to build relationships. So I would offer up a mindset reframe. It's about the relationship. And secondly, like you said, go and talk to your sales teams and ask someone from that team to come and run a session for you and do a 1 day session and build in role plays and learn how to sell an L&D solution using the 5 steps, the 6 steps, whatever it is, and have a
Mm,
practice.
mm.
It's the only, this L&D people, it might make you feel queasy, but do the purposeful practice and you'll get some real insights and learning into yourself about a sales conversation. That was awesome, Sarah. I really enjoyed that conversation. Thanks for the chat and the insights that you shared.
No, thank you, Kirsty. I really enjoyed understanding your point of view as well. It's been great to have internal versus external.
As with all the episodes, we're never sure where they might go. And with this one, we really weren't sure what it might be like, and it wasn't anything like we even could have expected. The essence of sales as a thing took some time to work out, and a massive thank you to Kirsty and Sarah for sticking at it and giving us some real food for thought. It really does warrant coming back to, so please make sure to listen again. A huge thank you to both Kirsty and Sarah for their time and a great conversation. Their contact details are in the show notes, along with links to our website, future episodes, and to our donation page. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time, and next time it's the L&D Community one. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.